Greer is back with us. He's the founder of the Disclosure Project. Dr. Greer has been consistent with us for weeks that there is a disclosure coming before the presidential inauguration, which now leaves us with 10 days. Dr. Greer, it's great to have you back. This is where we are right now. A flight crew on a commercial airplane recorded this large orb in the skies while they were at 17,000 feet. And now people, we mentioned this a week ago, are reportedly getting sick all over the world from this granular, mysterious fog that's being seen all over the place. Right. Does this disclosure happen next week? And if it does, how does it happen? When it starts happening, how will we know?
Well, it'll be all over the news. It's good to see you again. I just heard about an hour ago from the, we call the NOC, he's a non-official cover aerospace intelligence community, a senior operator from one of the key black sites, two black sites out in the western United States. And they are preparing to do this next week. I don't have an exact date. They intend to not only provide their testimony of operations, he's been there almost 30 years, but also the evidence and other details. Now, he's been involved in two things. One is the testing and the surveillance of the man-made UAPs that have been manufactured out of the Lockheed Skunk Works and Northrop Grumman complexes out in the high desert. Okay. The other is the targeting of non-human craft. Some would say extraterrestrial, some say alien. The words they're using now is NHI, non-human intelligence, and the downing of those objects. So he's been intimately involved. I've been at his facility, and that is on track. Now, keep in mind, so much of what is being seen now is sort of a decoy false flag operation, sort of trying to intercept what he's going to be doing and what we've been doing for some time.
But there's no way, Dr. Greer, we've talked about, there's no way all of this can be a false flag. It's all over the world now. It's being seen over cities in India, cities in South Korea. It's just the coordination that would be required to do something like that. I think it's beyond the scope, unless there is something going on that I'm completely unaware of, which of course is a possibility. 3 questions. These are just yes or no's. Are aliens already here? Yes or no?
Oh, sure. I mean, there have been non-human extraterrestrial civilizations that have been observing the planet for thousands of years, and it increased remarkably once we detonated the first atomic bomb. There's no question about that. In fact, this particular team coming forward have dealt with the remains and on occasion living non-human life forms that have been downed, and some are still in captivity in subterranean facilities or STIFs.
To me, Dr. Greer, feels like, and you answered my other question, it feels like right now the public worldwide is being primed for something. You know, for the last 50 years, we've had movies about aliens. Going back to Roswell, we've had reports of flying saucers. And now people, not just in northern New Jersey, are seeing strange things in the sky. It seems like these beings are technologically far superior than we are, and they're doing this with incredible patience, priming a worldwide audience for something else. Do you agree with that? And then what are they priming us for?
Well, it's very complex, but the bottom line it is they've been waiting for humans to acknowledge their presence so that they don't have to force into it, which could look aggressive, because they're not aggressive, obviously.
Force into it like land in Times Square, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to do something like that. They're going to do a sort of an acculturation and desensitization operation.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Which means it's gradual. Okay. And it has been over the decades. Now, the big problem here are rogue military-industrial complex operations that have reverse engineered these extremely advanced technologies and can use them in staged event. And this is where everyone, when I say everyone, I mean everyone from the generals that I have briefed at the Pentagon to director of the CIA, past, not the incoming. And that is that they greatly underestimate what has been developed. I mean, Ben Rich, before he died, who was head of Lockheed Skunk Works, said, anything you can imagine, as you've seen on Star Trek, we've already figured out, and it's out there in the desert. He says, not Area 51.
Okay.
Talking about
how far ahead of us? And the last time you were on, you said there are multiple different alien societies from different planets visiting us.
Right.
How far ahead of us are they?
At least 60 to 70 that have been documented.
60 to 70.
That I know about, yes.
And how far, where are they technologically? 1,000 years ahead, 1,000,000 years ahead?
they'd be in the many thousands to millions of years more advanced, and there are different civilizations at different development, both socially, spiritually, and technologically. None of them are hostile, obviously. With the kind of technology they have, they would have, as Congressman Burchett once said, it would be a charcoal briquette floating through space if they were overtly hostile. But they appear to be very concerned with our own hostility and the development of very powerful
If they
weapons.
landed, Dr.
Check. So I'm going to stop that right there. Stephen Greer is a Looney Tune, right? And I've always been suspicious of Stephen Greer. And now he's confirmed what I believe about him. Like, I lost all respect for him with that statement he just made. Like, Stephen Greer is a fucking house plant, right? He's some type of plant, CIA. He's, you know, some type of alphabet dude or something. Either he's some type of an agent or he's a total fucking Looney Tune and the worst doctor in the fucking world. I would never want to go to him as a doctor, right? Here's why. So Stephen Greer says that aliens are not a threat because if they were, right? He says, so he confirms that aliens are covertly, not overtly, but kind of covertly interacting with humans and you could say have invaded the planet Earth, right? He's confirmed this covertly, right? Okay. But he says, listen, they're not a threat. If they were, his thesis, he said Tim Burchett, who is a congressman, right? And him agree, right? I know Burchett, I know of him, I watch his videos and I've seen his interviews. And he talks about UFOs and aliens, right? And then Stephen Greer, he quotes Burchett and says, yeah, if they were a threat, they would have turned the Earth into a charcoal spinning through space. That's him. So that's the senator, right? This smart white man, these two white men, right? Smartest men on earth, come out and say, right? Obviously people are inferior to them and they're, you know, of course, the supreme over everybody. And they, with their supreme doctorates and their congressional, you know, tags and titles and degrees, they've come out and they've ascertained and they have, they're going to speak to you and tell you on this interview, et cetera, in these interviews, progressively that these aliens who have invaded, who they confirm have invaded, are totally harmless. If they weren't harmless, right, without great expertise, right, and our superior intelligence, we've ascertained that these aliens who have invaded, right, with this super advanced technology, et cetera, are totally benign and harmless, come in peace, want to be our friends, want to reveal themselves to us, but they want us to acknowledge them first so that we don't go into shock or they don't feel like they're forcing themselves on us. Oh, you mean like rape? You mean like anal probes or something like that? Oh, okay. That's your thesis. Tim Burchett, Congressman Burchett, and then this fucking houseplant, Stephen Greer, this dweeb, right? This plant, gotta be, right? Comes out and says, this is their thesis on the alien intervention, invasion, covertly taking place. Okay, got it. I think I got it. That's your thesis? Okay, got you. Now, here's a thesis for you, right? I call bullshit on that. And I've always suspected Stephen Greer. The reason I call bullshit, let's use his thesis on, you know, on some real life shit, right? Let's take it out of the alien, science fiction, pseudoscience, you know, blah, 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 right? Woo-woo bullshit. And put it in a real fucking world. Something that these people fail to do. Told you, nobody keeps it realer than me. Right? Something that they failed to do. Let's get out of I was smoking weed on my back porch, thinking about aliens, bullshit, or whatever, right? Whatever the, you know, contemplating aliens drinking a Budweiser, and just put it in a real world context, right? and not let these people craft the narrative of how you look at the world. Because that's what they're doing. Oh, yeah, aliens? Oh, man, come on. With all this advanced tech, these tic-tac flying back 4,000 miles an hour, up and down, all around, orb, shifting invisible technology, blah, 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 blah. They would have turned us into a piece of charcoal, floating around the sun. Okay, if they were hostile. If they were hostile to people, humans on the earth. That's your thesis. Okay, got it. Let me ask you this, Mr. Stephen Greer, Mr. Burchett, since that's your thesis. Are white people hostile to black people? Let's just use black people, right? Let's bring it down to earth. Are white people hostile to black people? Yes or no? Have they been known to be highly dangerous to black people as a humanoid group that they segregated themselves into, right? Because black people didn't come up with this shit, right? When they say black people are racist, fuck you, right? Fuck you. Black people's reaction to you comes from the hostility of people toward them, not because black people are innately racist or ever have been. So fuck you people saying that, right? First of all, black people didn't create that. Arabs and white people created that shit and spread it through the whole planet. From then until now, 2025. You see? When you go around the earth, to Canada and Mexico and Africa and Philippines and Thailand and every fucking where they bleaching their skin, are they bleaching their skin black? No. And putting up pictures of black Jesus? No. They're bleaching their skin white and putting up pictures of white Jesus in Mexico and in Colombia and in Africa. Fill in the blanks. So no, black people didn't invent racism. Stupid. I mean, that's the simplest example I can give you. I mean, without getting into a fucking sociological, historical, dissertation for the cheap seats. And I'm not talking about people listening. I know you're probably smart, right? You get it. Just ranting. Basically, it's just my rant on Stephen Greer, right? And his foolishness that's about to take place. Better prepare yourself. 2025 gonna be a humdinger. Now, so his thesis, well, let me stay on track. So back to what I said. Were white people hostile to black people? So-called black people. Are so-called white people hostile to so-called? Yes. Why? Why would I say that? Because, we live in America where for the past 400 years, if you look we can just go back 400 years. It goes back further, right? We can go back to when the Romans invaded Africa, North Africa. The white Roman soldiers' armies invaded North Africa. You see, we can go all the way back to that, right? But let's just stick to the more recent history. For the past 400 years, black people, they invaded Africa, Arabs and whites, you see, their cousins, and they took people out of Africa and spread and destroyed the genetic map of the fucking planet. Let's get that straight. It's more black people in Brazil than it is in the United States. The biggest black population outside of Africa is in Brazil for the cheap seats, right? For the people that ride the back of the bus. Beep, beep. What are you talking about? Right? For the people that's opposed to reading books or studying anything. The biggest black population outside of Africa is in Brazil, so-called black population. How did they get there? Through the transatlantic slave trade, the same way the Negroes got into America. Most of them, right? There was some, groups here that traveled here, right? We see some evidence of that. But most of them, the majority after that, came off them slave ships through the slave trade, right? How many did they kill during the slave trade, throwing off the ships into the oceans? About 100 million. So to create the 13 colonies of the United States, the slave colonies in Brazil, the slave colonies in Mexico, the slave colonies in the Caribbean, right? They killed 100 million people. They dumped 100 million dead bodies in the ocean during that process, right? During that, hundreds of years process. People fighting on the boats, all that kind of shit, different shit, whatever, right? Dying, etc. To create this huge population of people that shifted from Africa to the Americas. And killed 100 million in the process, right? And then when they got here, they killed, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands more. Probably, right? They killed 77 million Indians, indigenous people that was here in the Americas, just in North America. 77 million on top of the 100 million Africans that got killed in the process of the slave trade, of creating the 13 colonies, etc., that founded the United States. And we're not talking about Argentina where they purged the blacks, Brazil, we haven't even got Mexico, etc. We haven't even got to them. We're just talking about the United States, so-called. Right? And so, yeah, based on that, who did that? Well, that would be white people. Right? So we could say just from that alone, white people were extremely hostile and dangerous to the black people they came in contact with. Do we need to debate that? Is that an argument? Is that something we need to debate? See, and then you'll get these idiot white people. They'll say something like, "Oh well, black people enslaved some black people too." Right, because you were threatening them. When black people enslaved black people, it was in tribal wars. Those people got integrated. You see? A lot of times into those other groups. You see? And different things like that. That's totally different from chattel slavery. Right? And in a lot of cases, white people had already moved in and was waging war in these areas. And so it was like, listen, you can even help us as a militia group like ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and what they just did in Syria by putting ISIS, same thing. The same shit that's going on in Syria was going on back then. They backed ISIS and Al-Qaeda, right? Overthrew the government, Assad, you see? Obama, Assad must go, right? Remember all that? They backed Al-Qaeda, right? In Afghanistan and in Syria most recently. And now the president replaced the government there with Al-Qaeda, who they backed. A bunch of terrorists. But they was doing the same thing back in the 1800s, 1700s, whatever, right? And so you either play ball with us, right, or off with your head. And then they turn around and say, "Oh, black people sold other black people to us. We were on a carnival cruise, right? On a cruise to Africa, and now these niggers came out with these other niggers, beat them in the head and say, hey, listen, hey, cracker, you want some of these niggers we got right here? We selling them real cheap." That's the story they tell you. That's the story they promote to you. Because black people are stupid and weak in America, right? So they just promote these dumb. They'll just say anything to you, right? And that's the story you're supposed to believe. They were just cruising by on a Carnival cruise ship, you know what I mean? And some Negroes ran out the jungle, and then sold them somebody that they found, in the woods, in the jungle somewhere, on an elephant. I mean, this is the comic book cartoon shit that they spew in America, that white people and different people tell each other and tell you. If you will listen to it, I won't. I don't get the fuck out of my face. I ain't got time for that. You talking fairy tales and dumb shit. I don't get away from me. Now, but the reality is, right? So I digress, but so that's the reality of this situation, right? So they were obviously, back to them, they were obviously hostile toward black people, no doubt, right? Committed atrocities, war crimes, genocide, destroyed the genetic map of the planet, and in turn, fast forward today, went Jim Crow up until the time I was born, which was an extension of slavery. And then to today, we have diversity and integration, which traces all the way back to slavery and colonization, right? So diversity and integration is a fucking evidence of a crime. It's the fingerprints of criminal activity, of genocide, of colonization. If not, why the fuck are you integrated in diversity? You wouldn't need it. You be in your own fucking country with your people, speaking your own language, eating your own food, not speaking English. When you're not from England, not speaking Spanish. When you're not from fucking Spain, for all of the, dense so-called Hispanics that don't get it. They think they from Spain. Let them keep thinking that. They can find out very soon they're not from Spain, right? But that mentality is going to be unhealthy, you see, in the end. So now we see that, yes, there's no question that white people as a whole were very detrimental to anybody that came in. I'm just using blacks as an example. But extremely dangerous, right, for black people. Now, did they nuke Africa and kill all blacks? This is the thesis of Stephen Greer and people like him and Bert Chet. Did white people destroy and turn Africa into and nuke it? Did they nuke Africa and kill all blacks, right? We could use any group, Indians that they came in contact with, non-white group, but I'm just going to use blacks. Let's use this one group so I can wrap this up. Did they kill all black people and nuke Africa? No, they did not. Did they wreak havoc, colonize, enslave, etc., 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 rape, pillage? Yes. Did it benefit black people? Hell fucking no. What are you, a moron? You have to be a moron to answer yes. But they'll tell you it did. They'll say something like, we civilized you Negroes. Without us, you wouldn't have civilization. This is the psychopathy of these people. Fucking psychos. Right? America is an open air, free range, insane asylum. With people driving trucks into people on the sidewalks. And blowing themselves up in cyber trucks in Las Vegas. In school shootings. America is an open air fucking insane asylum, if you haven't noticed, full of men who think they're women and women who think they're men. Right? Cutting the penises off of little boys like Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union did to their son and giving them hormones and breast implants, right? This is America. If you haven't noticed lately. Now, I digress, right? So beyond any doubt, America, white people, right back to the subject at hand, white people have been totally detrimental to black people, particularly, so the remnants of that is in America, the black population of the United States. Let's get back to that. So, but did they wipe out all black people? No, they did not. They put their asses on plantations in the end, right? And then now you're in a fucking technocracy. White supremacist, Nazi, racist technocracy, right? Called integration and diversity. You see? A bunch of free-range chickens. That's all, that's all it is. Listen, we put a chip in you, now you're a bunch of free-range chickens. We'll call you if we need you for slavery, right? Instead of being a slave, we don't want you on our plantation. You go home at night. We'll give you some credits. You pay for this, and you stay somewhere else. And you come back to the corporate plantation tomorrow, right? So that blows Stephen Greer's theory out the water, right? Stephen Greer back to him. So white people didn't totally destroy black people, but were totally a fucking nightmare for black people as a whole over the past 400 years. So just because somebody is a threat to you, dangerous, detrimental, beyond a fucking reasonable doubt, you see what I'm saying? Doesn't mean they have to nuke Africa. I'm just going to use that as an example, right? They didn't have to nuke Africa to be a problem. And just like today, you think you look at let's use South Africa. Just use America, whatever. In South Africa, white people still control this. The black people are supposed to be free. White people control like 90, 95% of all resources in South Africa. I thought they was free. They in Africa. Go back to Africa, nigger. They in Africa. I thought they was free. Indians and white people control 90, 95% of the stuff there in South Africa. Just FYI, in case you don't read books and shit. And if the black people said, listen, we want our shit back, you know what I mean, or at least some of this shit got to be evenly distributed in a reasonable way because this our land. They'll say that's communism, socialism, and you're trying to genocide us. What? We don't believe in equity. They believe in domination. Stupid. They'll tell you that themselves. Equity equality is a dirty word to these people. That's some shit they tell silly Negroes. You see? So, back to Stephen Greer. Proving that Stephen Greer is a fucking moron, right? Or he's a houseplant. One or the other, take your pick. Aliens, to be a problem, didn't have to nuke the whole fucking earth. That's his thesis. Well, if aliens was really a problem and they meant harm, they would have nuked the planet 100 years ago. By what metric? Where did you come up? Would you pull that out your ass? Where'd you come up with that? Okay, now I can stop listening to you. Because anybody with common sense knows that you don't have to nuke the fucking earth to be detrimental to the people of the planet. And to know that if they're hiding themselves, it's not because they're scared that we're going to have a heart attack if we see some aliens, right? You're going to panic. What the fuck do they care? You're going to panic and sell all your stocks in crypto, right? You're going to panic and buy the toilet paper out of Walmart? Fuck the aliens care if you panic. Fuck do they give a fuck if you panicking for? If a bunch of monkeys on Earth is panicking and running back and forth. If they this advanced group of humanoid, whatever they are. Right? Fuck do they care? Fuck do they care about your feelings for? If they, 50,000 years ahead of you. Right? So he's trying to give you this benevolent view of these aliens. And they would have destroyed you if they weren't benevolent. A farmer eats cows. Does he destroy all cows? Why would the farmer destroy all the cows on the farm? I'm just saying. He breeds them, milks them, makes cheese, butter. Every now and then makes some hamburger, right? Some beef ribs, shit like that. Right? Might use one of them and drive the plow around or some shit. And sometimes he eats their asses. Does the farmer nuke all the cows on the farm? Does that make sense, Stephen Greer? What kind of shit are you shoveling? Are you selling to people? This guy is supposed to be a doctor. A doctor is a scientist at a certain level, a biologist. So either this guy is a houseplant or he's a fucking moron doctor. Which one is it? I think I made the case, right? You don't have to totally destroy people to be detrimental to them by being in their proximity and doing shit to them. When they took all the slaves out of Africa, they didn't go back and nuke Africa and then eventually wipe out all the black people. And now you're just walking around and just white people here. But he's saying, by his thesis, right, for you to be harmed, if aliens weren't harmed, if they were a problem, wanted to harm people on Earth, they would have nuked the whole planet and everybody would be dead now. We wouldn't be having this conversation. That's a concept that's for stupid people. That's goofy talk for dumb people, right? When you talking to a bunch of dumbed down people like in America, right? and silly Negroes or something, right? Then you talking platitudes and shit like that. Yeah, man, come on, man. Look, if aliens is a problem, man, they would have nuked the whole fucking place. Yeah, you right. You right. They had these spaceships, they would have just lasered the fuck out of us and nuked us. Yeah. That's not well thought out. So what are you up to, Stephen Greer? Aliens, this shit, I don't know what's gonna happen. I ain't a fucking crystal ball. Right? I get in the RV and all that. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna go. I don't got no crystal ball really, right? And I don't have no team of people RV and shit, right? But I call bullshit on what he's saying, obviously. And I don't really know what's gonna happen with all this. But one thing I will say is, I don't believe aliens. I will say this based on, I will refute what he said. Aliens don't have to don't have to burn the whole planet to be harmful to humans. One, the fact that, I'm gonna refute this and I'm gonna give my thesis. The fact that they are hiding shows, and they're running covert ops, right? I don't give a fuck about them being benevolent. They don't want to scare humans and mess up the stock market, and and people panic and buy all the toilet paper in Walmart. I don't really think they give a shit about that. I think they're hiding in covert just like anything else, right? Because they're up to no good. Here's my thesis, Stephen Greer, right? That bullshit you shoveling. They're hiding and being covert because they're up to no fucking good. And if anything, number two, they don't want to panic, the sheep that they're shearing and eating. How about that? To serve man. I think it was the Twilight Zone episode. Right? And I don't mean that literally, but maybe in some cases, you do not know what you're dealing with. So it's possible that these aliens are, one, obviously, hostile. And two, the Bible says they are. The Bible says they're hostile, I believe it. The prophecies in the Bible say that these creatures are hostile. That's enough for me right there. Number two, they're hiding. Why would you be hiding? Why are you so covert? I don't think you give a fuck about the stocks and the governments of the United States, unless you're behind them and you want to stand them up just to run shit for you because you're busy, right? Like, I'm too busy to administer all this bullshit. Like, even an alien, you're like, man, I don't want to deal with all these fucking humans and all this crap. We'll set these governments up and let them, deal with these fucking monkeys or whatever, right? However they look at it, right? So they're obviously covert, hostile, right? And dangerous and causing problems for people. That's obvious. They're probably behind, 90% of all the mayhem that goes on the earth. It's stemming from them being here. And their henchmen in the government and et cetera. People like Stephen Greer. You see? Who knows what his real agenda is? But it's obviously total bullshit. That's just what I want to point out. They're hostile. They're hiding because they're hostile. They're being covert because they're hostile. And they don't have to kill everybody and destroy the earth to be hostile or to be detrimental to you. Why would you destroy your plantation? Did the white man, why would the white man, back to my example, why would white people, if you're going back and forth to Africa to get slaves, why would you blow Africa off the map? Why would you nuke Africa and kill everybody there? Well, you couldn't come back and get no slaves if you did that. So your thesis doesn't make sense. They didn't destroy Earth because it's a fucking plantation, Mr. Dr. Greer. Hey, let me help you out. You're a doctor, I know, right? You got a doctorate, you super smart. All these people around you are so smart. They didn't destroy Earth not because they're benevolent. They didn't destroy Earth because it's a fucking plantation. Just like the white man, sir, Mr. White Man, didn't destroy all black people on the plantation or in Africa that he was enslaving. Because he needed more slaves. Right? To run his farm and his plantations. Why would you nuke it? Why would you destroy the earth? If you're if you know what I mean, like if they're humanoids, they need something at a certain level, right? If they're humanoids, then they're not magical beings. If they're building ships, that means you need what? Ships don't build them. They need, even if you've got robots or whatever, you're building. You need the building blocks for that shit. Whether it's solar energy, metal, right? If you need a robot, well, you need some metal. Where you getting metal from? Well, the metal comes from Earth. You got to dig it up out the ground. It doesn't pop out of thin air, right? You need microchips. You need copper wire, silver, gold for the connections, electronics. All that shit is electronics that they're using. There's advanced technology. Is a form of electronics at a certain level, a high level, right? Quantum physics. It doesn't come out of thin air. It's not magic. They don't snap their fingers and this shit appear out of air. Like I don't know, a genie or something. So they need resources. They eat food, might eat people. Right? They probably eat food. You see? They probably sleep somewhere. They probably sleep in a bed just like you do at a certain level. Might have children just like you do. You see? And a family and descendants just like you do at a certain level. They're just more advanced than you and technologically. And their society has existed way longer than yours. So what Stephen Greer is saying, in a nutshell, is bullshit. I think I just made the case. So, yeah, it's total bullshit. The question is, what are they really up to? You see? And I say really to understand that, I'm going to say this and go. To understand that, look at their history. You want to know where you're going? Look at your history. You want to know where they're going? Look at their history. As the Bible say, by your fruits you shall know them. So if they pop out of the fucking woodwork along with standing beside Stephen Greer and Bert Chet and Trump and all these people, well, you already know you got your answer. That's all I got.